city bitch. Trip city bitch, trip city bitch. Trip city bitch, trip city bitch. Trip city bitch, trip city bitch. Yeah. Trip city bitch, yeah, I'm coming on the clip. Trip city bitch, trip city bitch. 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 Welcome back to Opinion Nobody Asked For or Cares About. I'm your host, trippy.grimm. I figured we're gonna go a little Kobe Bryant here. Not to compare myself to probably one of the best basketball players who ever lived, but because that's definitely not what I am in podcasting. But what I mean by that is I'm going to do a couple of these by myself, essentially the equivalent of playing tennis with yourself with a wall, just hitting the ball back and forth with a wall. Paris, I love her having on the show, but I kind of want to exercise my ability to create commentary with nothing, because sometimes when there's not another person in the room, it can be kind of hard for me to keep going and just talk to you guys like you're a person right there, let's see, because I think, but and sorry, the viewfinder, I keep trying to make sure I'm in frame, but I'm just going to talk to you like this. See, this is a part of me just doing a bunch of it. Doing things by myself makes me better at them. Today I want to talk about drug addictions, okay? I want to talk about that because I feel like everybody has been affected by drug addiction, whether it's someone in your family or you struggle with it. Obviously it has not it has been a factor in my childhood, in my life, in different parts of my existence. I think it's built into our culture, so no matter what relationship you have with it, you won't get away from it. So to say that you don't have any is kind of ridiculous. At the same time, I think I get a little bit irritated when it comes to people and how they view drug addictions, because in my mind, right, it is a mental illness. It is a sickness. And of course, when you're trying to get your life together and people are like, get sober, it's a choice, you're making a choice, you're doing it over and over again. Well, you could say the same thing from any mental illness. They're doing it over and over again. They forget to take their medicine. They stay up too late. They don't eat right. They don't use practical techniques to ground themselves. You could say that all those are choices too. They don't work out. They don't do other things. But that's not their fault. That's the thing. That's not their fault. But in the same vein, it is also a choice to take care of yourself, whether you have a mental illness or not. That's why I'm saying that I don't know why it's so demonized, drug addiction. I think people have just had horrible experiences, horrible childhoods. And so the people who have had abusive parents and so, the ones who didn't become alcoholics, the ones who went the other way and got sober and never touched anything and are workaholics and about work themselves to death because they have to feel a sense of purpose, because if they don't, then they'll become their parents in their mind. The thing about that is I'm just trying to put this in terms. And this is the reason I'm doing this, all right? Ultimately, that's why I'm filming this podcast by myself, because I want to get better at just talking to you guys. It ultimately, that is very nearsighted and narrow way of looking at it, because those people have never particularly struggled with drug addiction. The people who steered away from it from day one never struggled with it. They might have the drug genes in them. Yes, correct. They absolutely do. But they never were exposed to drugs. They never had such a hard time and then let drugs become their sanctuary, okay? They never relied on drugs. So you really can't say that, oh my God, these people are better than these people, because these people never even had the struggle that these people had. Yes, these people made decisions to take drugs, albeit whatever reason, but the genetic markers in their body, along with the addictive nature of drugs, ultimately does make it a challenge. It does make it a mental health struggle. In comparison to these people who just say, just don't ever do it, that's really easy to say when drugs, alcohol, every single mind-altering substance permeates the entire world. It is cultural. It is truly... if you don't understand it and you just judge it, then that's what I'm here for. That's what the point of the title was. I don't think that. My mouth's a little dry. I wish I had some water in here. But I don't understand why it's demonized to the degree, okay? You go out on the street and you see homeless people and they are really bad off. You know what I mean? Like, they have been on it for a while. And that was someone's kid, man. That was someone's kid. That was someone's brother. Maybe someone's father. Maybe someone's nephew, friend. They mattered to someone. And because it's easier to say it's their fault, we will. Because then that makes us feel less bad about it as a society, I think. I think we want to absolve ourselves from guilt, and sometimes you need to feel guilt for things you didn't do. Not guilt necessarily, but contemplation. Contemplation about what part you may play in it, I'm trying to get better at not saying Drug addiction alters the mind. It alters the brain structure when it's consumed too young. And to say that it's just as simple as making a choice is so hyperbolically comedic. To say that someone's brain, because of their environment, they were pushed to make certain decisions, and those decisions change the structure and chemistry of their brain and body, and they have to fight against their own genes at that point. Even though culture has led them to that decision, their environment has led them to that decision, they have to fight against their genes. At the same time, everyone looks at them as a criminal. Let me put this into perspective. I've always viewed, and people, you can hate me for this one, I don't give a shit. I've always viewed anorexia, bulimia, eating disorders, similar to drug addiction. It's a compulsion. I don't demonize either one. That's the thing. I think it's just a sickness. I think it's not a choice. I think it gets to a point where it is a choice, and it gets to a point where it isn't. when you're consciously aware of the decisions you make and you want to make different decisions and you're trying to make different decisions and then you just give up immediately, maybe that is a choice. But struggling is not a choice. You don't want to struggle to make a decision. If someone wants to get sober, legitimately, it's because they want to get sober. It's not because they want to lie to everybody and get high for the rest of their life. Um, and just like anorexia, bulimia, whatever, it's a compulsion. You know what I mean? Those intrusive thoughts, right? Except the only difference is their body, depending on who they are, is set up different than yours. And or how they grew up is different. And they might have different trauma than you. There's a myriad of reasons why someone would become an addict. And we look at them like they're trash. I don't. I don't. I am them. I am an addict. I don't give a shit. I think it's a lie for people to pretend like they're not at all. You know, I see people who can't get out of bed without coffee, who can't exist without a cigarette, who come home and drink every single day. And the fact that I'm an addict, they'll go, I hope he's doing all right. And to that I say, oh, sweetie, baby, honey, precious. Oh, no, you're an addict too. People just accept your addictions. You rely on those things to exist. That is an addiction. You don't choose to do them. It's a compulsion. And some of them do kill you. And you'll say, well, it's not as bad as this, not as bad as that. Yeah, it is. It is when it adds up. At the end of your life, when you've done it 100 times, it doesn't matter whether it was a cigarette or a fucking joint. The smoke was in your lungs. Okay? I think definitely there are drugs that can be more dangerous than others. I think that um, certain people can develop healthy relationship with drugs. I don't think drugs are evil. I think it's all about your relationship with drugs, and that's my point. Is some of these people were incapable of ever having a positive relationship with drugs, and yet you look down on them like they are incapable or worthless, but you didn't have to, you're not trying as hard as them because you don't have to. There's no obstacles like they have in their way. You might have some real life struggles that might push you to drink, but some of these people have things inside their body from the day they're born. Genetic markers that make them predisposed to drink, along with an environment that they grew up with, which usually fosters that same kind of mentality. I just, I know that sometimes with addicts, you do have to say, this is it. Hey, look, we're not helping anymore. You gotta want to help yourself. I know, because I've dealt with addicts before. Me personally, I've always been a functioning. Okay? I've been lucky enough to a certain degree about just functioning with all of the stuff going on. And I'm not getting into the intricacies of it, but um, with everything, I've been able to just live my life. And there's some people who go way farther than that and like their brain, because there isn't one type, really, like one singular type of addict, you know? And I'm not even talking about drugs, but like how they do the drugs. You could go into archetypes all day, honestly, about different addicts and where they go. I think there's a functioner, you know, which would be me, who can live life fine, completely fine, and then come home and get drunk or whatever. And go to work the next day and never miss a day of work and go and do it and, you know, keep a steady job constantly. There's people who have to like, and it could be in stages, but There's people who, when they have one touch of that, one little morsel, and it gets a hold of them, that's all they ever want ever again. And you could call those the cultists, I guess, because everything in their life suddenly becomes about obtaining this drug, getting more of this drug, being around people with this drug. They want the drug in their system, and that's it. Um, then you could say another archetype would be the hypocrite, the person who categorizes drugs into levels of badness, right? So like they'll be like, I smoke cigarettes. That isn't as bad as smoking weed. At least it's legal. Or I drink alcohol. That's so much better than pills. That's so much better than pills. That's so much better than meth or whatever it is. And they'll like create this grandiosity about themselves. And eventually they're going to have a reckoning. But those people exist very much too. And then they eventually, hopefully, realize they're addicts before they're dead. And I'd say because there's so many. You could just go down the different types of how people do. There's the terrorist. The terrorist is willing to hurt anybody, steal anything, do anything negative at all to get drugs. It doesn't matter. They don't even think about right or wrong. They think in drugs. That could be similar to the first one, but I don't think so. The cultist is more about just being around and having access to this drug at all costs. But maybe your morals aren't compromised, right? But the terrorist has fully given up on morality. They only want drugs. That's it. Only drugs. And those people are definitely one of the people where you're going to have to say, okay, I can't help you. You're hurting people. I can't. This is your choice. That's when things would venture into being a choice. When it's no longer just about the drug that you're taking, but it's also about how you're affecting the world because of this drug. And not even taking it or being on it, but like what you're willing to do for this drug, who you're willing to hurt, destroy, whatever. That that is a choice, you know? And then we could go further and say to a degree it isn't, because their brain has been completely changed by this. Okay, let me put this into perspective, right? Hold on. Lost my train of thought. Talking about drugs and mental health. Drugs and mental health. I don't know. Um, but I'm gonna go. Okay, wait. Actually, it is a choice. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. It's okay. That's why I'm doing this. I hope this isn't annoying or stupid or whatever. I don't really care. It's important to me. I want people to know that I don't look at them like they're less than because they're addicts, or maybe they're struggling in life in general, or maybe they're having mental health struggles, and they feel like a waste. They feel worthless. I know I have at times, and I'm here to tell you that that is a part of the disease that tricks you into continuously doing the drug. The more you do the drug, the more you reaffirm in your mind you're worthless, the more you need the drug to make you feel good. You do the drug that reaffirms you're worthless. It's a never-ending cycle. Um, I'm not necessarily going to talk about here how to get sober. You know, that would be kind of like a fucking the tea calling the kettle black. You know, I'm not on hard drugs or anything. Not that, like we just were talking about, not that that makes it any better. But I have been cutting down on my alcohol, weed, everything really. The one I want to give up no matter what and like really never come back to is nicotine. I hate that one. It's so addictive and socially accepted. It's just everywhere. I hate it. Probably the worst decision I ever made. Smoking nicotine for the first time. But going back to mental health struggles, or addictions are mental health struggles, and the reason why is because not only is your brain structure changed from your environment and you're having to deal with a different physiology, and it's not as easy as it is for other people. A lot of times people with mental health struggles that already exist, whether it be depression, anxiety, PTSD is a big one, um, schizophrenia even. You know, I know people with schizophrenia who drink. Um, they start drinking, smoking, doing drugs to feel normal, to feel comforted. And so they just layer on top of these pre existent conditions more conditions. And it's a cycle, you know? Like it's hard for someone who has mental illnesses, who has gotten bad off on drugs, to get mentally realigned while they're still on drugs. But then it's hard for them to get off drugs because their mental state is so in such a deficit. I obviously didn't have a script for this. I'm just trying to speak from the heart. Um, so when you get that, you know, extenuating circumstance, well, it's most circumstances is like a lot of people with mental health issues take drugs. It's a lot of overlap there for a reason because they feel like they don't have a choice. I mean, if you could, some people have it so hard that if they could flip a switch in their brain and make it go away, they would. And that's what they wanted to do, and that's what they thought they were doing. And maybe they knew it wouldn't last, but they just wanted a momentary sense of relief at least. We have to stop demonizing people for drugs because guess what? That makes them want to do more drugs. We should definitely hold them accountable. Hold them accountable for their actions, for their sobriety, this and that. But judging them for an illness, I don't think that gets us anywhere. I don't. That's fucked up. And I'm gonna say something, and it's not even necessarily because I'm an addict. I mean, granted, I don't know if I didn't have my experiences, would I understand the experiences of others? I would like to hope so that I would have empathy and understanding for people because I do now. People I have never lived their life. I have empathy for things I've never experienced. Or sympathy. Is it sympathy? Sympathy is the one you don't understand. You haven't lived, but you can imagine. So sympathy for those. But truthfully, gotta stop looking at addicts like they're the problem. Gotta stop doing that because it's not gonna cut down on drug use. It's not gonna help anyone. You judging your friends is not helping them. You might be pushing them closer to suicide depending on where they're at. You could be. If all you ever say to them is how much of a fucking druggy loser they are and they have depression, I mean, that's a possibility, man. They could kill themselves. So that's the semblance I'm trying to make here is like the justification of hating someone. You know, a lot of people justify their hate of white men, white straight men, and a lot of people justify their hatred of addicts. And just like they, you know, just like other people justify their hatred of minorities or their hatred of um, religious groups or whatever, you're using your bias to prove to yourself that someone is inadequate. But that's all it is a bias that you're holding against another person. I just don't know how you can always just want to put someone down and go about it. I think that's why I really respected Charlie Sheen for coming out and he's like, yeah, I smoke crack. I'm by winning. I got tiger blood. Like, yeah, of course, man. Like, that shit is so real because if you go watch that video, it's a great video. But they interview him after the drug scandal, and he just doesn't give a fuck. He opens up to it. Because I don't understand why it's hush hush. Everybody does them. Everybody. And if you don't do them, then I really applaud you because, you know, it's good to stay sober. It is. It's good to stay sober for yourself, for others, to be connected to God, be connected to the world. I just know how family members of mine have felt. I know how I felt. And I was never encouraged by someone trying to put me down. Never. Never was I encouraged by some. Well, I was motivated, but that's just the person I am. When you tell me I can't do something, it makes me want to do it more. But that feeling of worthlessness sticks around, and it does get really hard for people to overcome, you know, because they just go down the rabbit hole with drugs. And I just truly think people don't either know how they affect people with this crazy mentality of like, fuck these criminals, fuck these literal criminals. You mean these sick people, bro? These people who are suffering, who got dealt a bad hand, who ended up in a bad situation, who need help. Fuck them. They're sick. They're literally sick, bro. Even if they weren't drug addicts, they were probably sick before that. That's what I'm saying. That's my point is like, you're raised in a bad environment, you have mental health issues, you're kind of destined to try drugs. And then if it gets a hold of you, that's it. That's it. It's going to be hella hard to get done. And of course, the sooner you stop, the better it is. But I just think that we could give each other a little bit of grace. Stop judging each other. I wouldn't judge someone for having schizophrenia, so I don't know why anyone would judge someone for having addiction. You know, you can judge someone for the actions that they have with the addiction. Like, I'm not telling you to excuse everything an addict does. Don't do that. Hold them accountable. But don't make them feel worthless for having a drug problem. Because, of course, a drug is contributing to the behavior, but if you're commenting on a symptom, you want to comment on the behavior itself and not the cause. You know, not the illness. Because that's what it is. It is an illness, whether you believe it or not, it's an illness. All right. Well, this was super, super, super kind of depressing, but I don't think it was depressing. I think it was real. I don't care. And honestly, if you like it or not, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to be real, and I'm trying to get better at talking to myself, to you guys, without Paris here, because I feel like Paris becomes a backboard that I can just hit, you know, my ideas off of. But I don't, I don't want to rely on Paris to give commentary sometimes. So we are going to end this here. I'm glad y'all came by. I'm really glad I was able to talk about this with you. And if this was at all helpful or insightful or gave you anything, feel free to hit subscribe or hit that like button. It helps us out a lot. Share it, whatever. Um, I'll see you in the next one.